I guess something about their roof collapsing a little bit or something, but I don't know much about any other businesses.
Okay, well, we're glad you're okay, although I'm sure your nerves are rattled, and I'm sorry about some of your merchandise there. That's never easy. It's not an easy time to be a small business owner.
No,
But
definitely.
yeah, but in terms of other quakes you felt, this definitely felt a little stronger than you're used to.
Oh, 100%. Like I said, 15 years in Julian, and this is the hardest one I've felt in my life.
Wow. We can
So
only
this is,
imagine. The sounds of all those bottles rattling must have just been, really incredible.
Yeah, it was probably a good thing you were in the bathroom, because you wouldn't want to be,
yeah.
stalking or standing in one of those aisles when the bottles come down. So we're certainly glad you're okay, although I imagine you'll be rattled for the rest of the day.
No, yeah, definitely. It's my heart's still a little pounding, and just for the sake of the day, a little tired of it. It's not helping the Red Bull I took earlier too. So that was
Yeah.
it's all adding up.
Yeah, that gets your heart rate going. Well, Dylan, thanks so much for joining us. And again, if you're just joining us here on KCAL News, a 5.2 centered near Julian in East San Diego County along the Elsinore Fault, which is part of the San Andreas system. And we've seen some robust aftershocks, according to Dr. Lucy Jones. We do want to let people know that Metrolink service has been canceled between San Clemente and Oceanside as they assess any damage to the tracks and make sure that that's safe. The good news is, as Dr. Lucy Jones points out, because I think we along the coast always wonder, could this trigger a tsunami? And again, the earthquake would have to be under the ocean, to disrupt the actual ocean floor, which did not happen. But Amy and I both growing up in San Diego, Californians, were not strangers to earthquakes, but both of our fathers who have been there a very long time said that this is one of the most, if not the most, according to your dad, Amy, severe quakes that they've felt. And both of our social media feeds and cell phones are filled with friends who live down there saying, people were really concerned, people were really worried that this was going to be the big one that we all hear about. So at this point, though, it looks like the damage we are seeing at least superficial.
Exactly. And, but certainly lots of nerves rattled this morning at 10:08 as this 5.2 quake struck near Julian, about 13 kilometers below the surface, which is why so many people have felt it so much stronger than previous earthquakes, including the one from yesterday, which was, of course, smaller. But we've been hearing from people all over, from Orange, Newport Beach, Chino Hills, all saying that they felt it. I know that my brother-in-law in Chino Hills says that he got the warning. He thought the warning was about 5 seconds before the quake hit. But certainly he said that it was strong enough. He was worried, of course, about my father being so close to the epicenter of this quake. And, so far I have not heard of any damage from my father, but that he is okay. And, it is interesting, Christine, that both of our fathers were there so long, both Vietnam veterans, not wimpy men by any means. And they've both
seen a lot.
Yeah, they've seen quite a bit. And they both were rattled by this one because it was so much stronger for them than previous ones. And your dad along the coast, my dad more inland, but they both felt it quite strong.
Yeah, and we talked to one woman in Carlsbad, which, if you're familiar with San Diego, also on the coast, North County, San Diego, so quite, I would say 40 miles probably from Julian. And she said it actually kicked out their cell service for a little while, which can be very disconcerting if your family member's trying to get a hold of you. And she said she was in a taller building, like a condo complex, and she said that building really got going. But, I have to say, for all the years that I've experienced earthquakes and, of course, covered earthquakes, I'm always amazed at how well our structures hold up to that kind of shaking.
Exactly.
Because we tend to see these earthquakes in, other countries, other places where they can be devastating, where you have buildings just crumble. But California does do a really good job at retrofitting the older buildings and building the new ones so that they kind of move with the quake as opposed to just kind of staying on the foundation. We should point out, this is always a good time. I'm going to remind myself to be prepared because, as Dr. Lucy Jones always tells us, there is a very small chance, a 5% chance, that the earthquake we have is actually a precursor to a larger quake. Now, it's very rare.
Yes.
And probably the quake that we saw yesterday was the precursor to this quake. but it's a good reminder, you know, to have the things in your house. They always say to be able to be self-sufficient for 3 days.
Yes.
You know, assume that you have no one coming for you for first aid, for food, for shelter,
water,
you know, to have
even.
water.
You know, depending on where you are in retrospect to the earthquake, you could lose water. If the pipes break, it could be 3 days, and we know that's the most important. You've got to have good, clean water.
And shoes by your bed. That's the one that I finally did, because, you know, you never want things to break. Even just if it's not that bad of a quake, but you have, say, a painting in your room or a picture, and it falls down and it's in the middle of the night, and you go put your feet down and you step. So, you know, it's always a good idea to slide some shoes or some slippers that have hard soles underneath. But we Californians, we're used to the quakes, which also kind of brings a complacency. And I'm definitely, I have been, you know, have done that.
Guilty of not being as prepared as you should be. And I have to admit, I think it was, I don't know how many years ago, there was another earthquake that's when I did, in fact, get those kits together, one at home and one in the car. But you know, it is always a good reminder to make sure your kit is still good, because, you know, water only lasts so long. Now, we do want to remind you, if you are just joining us, a powerful quake that struck just outside of San Diego was felt all the way up to Los Angeles.
Assignment Manager Mark Lewis live at the desk with details. And Mark, you're showing us a number of aftershocks in that area as well.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of data coming into the U.S. Geological Survey. This 5.2 hit in the area of Julian, California. That's to the northeast of city of San Diego, about 40 miles. Hit at about 10:08 this morning. Now, here in Los Angeles and all across Southern California, people felt it. One of the first things we did is actually launch SkyCal to go look to make sure if there was any data. SkyCal is actually live right now over LA City Fire Station 88. No damage here, but what we're seeing is what is happening at fire stations all across Southern California. Firefighters, they go into something called earthquake mode, where they check their gear first, they check their station, and then if they feel it's necessary, they will go out into the community and they will check to see if there was any damage in their general neighborhoods. Now, we're about 116 miles or more from the epicenter in the Julian area, so really no reports of any damage in the Los Angeles, Orange County, Riverside, San Bernardino, or Ventura County areas, but firefighters, they still go into this mode either way. Now, as far as feeling it, probably hundreds of thousands of people felt it, and our seismometer, our seismo sensors connected to our seismocam felt it as well. Let me show you that waveform now. I cut you some video from when this came across our seismology camera, our seismocam. You're going to see the waveform if we can bring that up there.
Earthquake could be
this actually is video of
we haven't found any characteristic that says this is
of Lucy Jones here speaking about this. Actually, if you come out to my screen, I'm going to show you instead a map of the earthquake that I wanted to. There's the seismocam that I wanted to talk about right there. You can see these waveforms: Anaheim, Long Beach, Los Angeles, San Bernardino, and underneath the graphic, San Diego, all felt it. You can see in Los Angeles that really long rolling motion on the third seismo monitor there. Lots of people reported this feeling very, very long, going on for a very long time. Now, if you come out to my screen, I'm going to show you where this was and show you the swarm of aftershocks that were actually happening right in the 10, 15 minutes afterwards. So here is San Diego down near the bottom of the screen here, and I'm going to zoom in this blue dot. That's the primary quake, the 5.2 that happened in Julian at about 10:08, and all of these orange dots to the north here, these are all aftershocks in the realm of about 2.7, 2.9, or 2.5. This one right down here was actually a 3.3 that happened yesterday. There was also another earthquake that was all the way over here in Borrego Springs right about the same time, about 3.5, probably not related. But this is the waveform map that shows the intensity that as this earthquake emanated out from the epicenter is about 13 kilometers deep. But this really tells the story here. All of these tiny little squares that you see on your screen, these are all individual reports of people who felt it all through Southern California. Now, the light blue, that's very light shaking reported. But for the first time in a while, we are seeing some greens and yellows, especially down here at the epicenter, which is right here, and even some orange and red there. These are all instances of people feeling either very strong or severe shaking. Now, right here, that's the epicenter. That's Julian, California. Do people live out there? There's a community out there. But look at all of the squares that were felt here in the San Diego area, even out here near the Mexicali region, down here in Tijuana, and all across through Orange County. So lots of data coming in. People, hundreds of thousands Potentially millions of people felt this earthquake, even through the Palm Springs area, up into 29 Palms, Simi Valley, Thousand Oaks, Oxnard. So it looks like we all felt this one today. And the good news is, so far, we have not heard any reports of any serious damage. Certainly, we had that video from that liquor store owner, lots of bottles knocked off shelves. I'm certain there were lots of things that were knocked off shelves, probably in the San Diego area, but hopefully no serious structural problems and no injuries yet that we know of.
Which is the best news, Mark. And, you know, we've been talking all morning, Christine and I both growing up in the San Diego area, Christine along the coast, myself in Poway, which is quite near the epicenter here. Originally, they were saying it was in the San Diego Estates, which is in Ramona, but we have since found out that it was actually in Julian, a 5.2. Christine and I have been talking about how so many of our friends have been posting that it is the worst earthquake that they have felt. And I was able to convince one of my friends, Beth, I believe, is on the phone with us. Beth, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Hi, Beth. It's Amy and Christine. Well, I think I'm doing a little better than you. You did post. I saw that this was the worst one. You also, growing up in Poway, you have felt a lot of earthquakes. Give us an idea of where you were and what you felt this morning.
I was just sitting in my office at home, and I had gotten an alert from on my phone right before it happened. And I just I didn't know what it was. I just thought my phone was doing something strange, so I didn't bother with it. And then all of a sudden I heard the rumble, and it just started kind of rolling. And it just kept going on. And usually I just hang out and don't do anything about it. This time I actually went outside because it was kind of scary. So, and I was kind of shaking afterwards for a while because I've never felt it that strong before.
Yeah, and you know, so often, Beth, earthquakes, sometimes it's a big jolt, sometimes it's a rumbling. Did you feel the jolt before the rumbling, or was it just rumbling?
I didn't feel a jolt. I felt it more. I heard more than I felt it. And then it really just kind of picked up, and that's when I decided to go outside. But nothing broke in my house. There was nothing. My husband was actually in La Jolla, and he was on the 8th floor of a building, and he said it really swayed a lot for him. And so, but everything was fine. We're all fine here, and nothing is broken here in the house, no glassware or anything. So we got lucky.
And Beth, you know, of course, this is Christine. I'm here with Amy. I'm also from San Diego, from the Del Mar area. And, you know, the one thing that I'm seeing is everybody's texting one another. Are you okay? Are you okay? Did you have any interruption to cell service? Because we did hear some people had that. And also, what are your friends saying?
I did not have any interruption in cell service. I had actually called my husband. I called 2 of my brothers that are in San Diego as well to see if they were okay. So I didn't have any issues with cell service, but it was like right after, so maybe there could have been a delay or something. Everyone's kind of feeling the same way as I was. They just felt the long rolling rumble of it all, but so far everyone's good that I know.
Well, that's good, because we're looking at some video from a liquor store while you're talking in Julian, where a lot of the bottles came off the shelves and, you know, landed on the floor. So thankfully, everything, it sounds like, is okay where you live, and we're glad that you're okay and that you joined us.
Yes,
well,
exactly.
Thank you.
Certainly appreciate it, Beth. And I have to ask you, was this the first time during an earthquake that you actually felt it was long enough that you needed to walk outside?
There was one other time, and it was funny. I can't remember how long ago it was. It had to have been at least 10 or 15 years ago, but I remember the pool. We could see the pool water like lapping over, and so we actually went outside on that one because it was pretty strong. And I can't remember when that was, but it was at our old house, and I remember watching the pool water kind of flopping all over the place. So let's get outside. This is scary.
Yeah. Well, Beth, I'm glad that you are okay, and I certainly appreciate you taking a few minutes to speak with us. I don't often put my friends on the spot like that, but I couldn't resist today. So thanks so much for joining us on the air. I owe you one. Thank you. All right,
And
take care.
we're going to bring in some other people as well. We're going to get to Ashley Pinnock, but I think she's not on quite yet. We're just going to kind of recap, though, what's going on. If you've missed it or you didn't feel it, although I am seeing reports of even being felt as high as Ventura, north as Ventura. A 5.2 quake just after 10 a.m. The epicenter, East County, San Diego, and Julian. And now we're going to bring in Ashley Pinnock, who I believe felt the earthquake. Oh, we might not have her yet.
Yeah.
And we have, I don't know if that's the case, but we did hear, which I thought was interesting, some interruptions to cell service, which I always worry about because now we're all getting rid of our landlines. And then we hear when there's in this case, I don't think it was an interruption of any sort of communication devices. It's probably everybody trying to call and reach out to their loved ones at once, which is why they say with things like this, use text messaging versus calling, because text will go through when phone calls don't always go through.
Exactly. And we often talk about, being prepared for the really big earthquake. And then it's important, I think, to even have a safety person that you call out of state. So everyone in the family calls that family plan, and everyone calls that one person to make sure that they're all okay. But we've been joined by a few people on the phone, and I do believe that we have Ashley Pinnock ready. Is that true, Ashley? Can you hear us? Okay. What we're going to do instead is actually check in with Paul Diano, who has been keeping a close eye on the weather. And of course, Paul, we know that there is no such thing as earthquake weather.
No, there's not.
But we still want to check in with you anyway.
Yeah, we're going to talk about earthquakes here for a couple minutes while we get more people in San Diego set up to speak with. You may be wondering, where exactly did this happen? We'll give you a recap. Orange County, San Diego County will zoom in 2 times here. First, it is just to the north of the 8 and Pine Valley. We'll zoom in a little bit closer. This happened more than an hour ago, so if you saw our map from about 20 minutes ago compared to now, the color has gone from red to yellow. Yellow is 1 hour or later ago is when the earthquake happened. It happened exactly at 10:08. A magnitude 5.2 earthquake happened in inland San Diego County near the town of Julian. Happened along what is known as the Elsinore Fault. The Elsinore Fault rolls into our viewing area. It spreads from Chino Hills all the way south to El Centro and San Diego. It's quite a long fault. There's not much of an earthquake history there, but it is a fault that runs parallel to the San Andreas Fault. Locally in Orange County, it runs just to the east on the far side from the ocean of the Santa Ana Mountains. And the last big earthquake along that fault was a long time ago. It was 1910, where there was a magnitude 6.0. This is the biggest quake along that fault in 115 years. Magnitude 5 or stronger earthquakes happen in California about 2 or 3 times per year. This is about 100 years of data that we can look at. We get 2 or 3 per year. This would be one of them. A magnitude 6.5 or stronger, which thankfully we are not looking at here. That only happens in California, the whole state, about once every 4 years. Final graphic I want to share with you. This is the strongest quake anywhere in California since we had a similar magnitude 5.2 quake along the Grapevine in southern Kern County on August 9th of last year. We've already seen 8 strong aftershocks. A strong aftershock would be magnitude 2.5 or higher. We've had 8 of those in the past hour. And as with most earthquakes, there is the chance that this one is actually the smaller one and the bigger one is coming. That number has already been reduced from 5% down to 1%. It usually would happen if it happens right after the earthquake. That has not happened. So now there's a very, very, very small chance that this is a foreshock. I'll finish things with this map right here. Inland San Diego County, magnitude 5.2 earthquake. And Mark has been talking about this, that did you feel it part of the USGS website? 37,000 people, guys, have filled out that form and submitted it. It was felt all throughout Southern California, more than 100 miles from where that earthquake happened. Guys, back to you.
And we want to just recap that just after 10 a.m., there was a 5.2 quake in San Diego County, centered near Julian, which is a small town in East County, San Diego, but this quake being felt up and down Southern California, down to Mexico, up even to Ventura County. You're looking here at some video that is from a liquor store in Julian, where you can see some bottles came off the shelves. We spoke with a woman who was working in the Chamber of Commerce building, a historic building. She said it felt like the building was going to crumble around her. Lots of people talking about how this was not a quick earthquake, that it lasted several seconds, and it wasn't that rolling motion that we sometimes feel or a quick jolt, but more of a constant shaking. And we are going to say goodbye to our viewers on CBS2, but we're going to continue coverage over on KCAL 9. Again, a quake along the Elsinore Fault, which is part of the San Andreas system. Dr. Lucy Jones saying we're feeling robust aftershocks, so a sizable quake. And now we're back on KCAL News talking about this earthquake. I'm joined now by Amy Johnson, both of us San Diego natives.
Yes.
And in between giving you the news right now, we're hearing from many of our friends and family who felt that earthquake. Both of our dads saying it was very severe and some of the worst. Your dad saying the worst quake he's felt since moving to the San Diego area in the early 70s.
Exactly, and he's in an area called Poway, which is very close to that area east of Poway. He actually lives between Poway and Ramona, and initially we were hearing that this was over 6-point earthquake in the San Diego States in the Ramona area. It was then upgraded to a 5.2. I should say the information was upgraded, and it was actually a lower 5.2 that actually happened in the Julian area. We've been hearing from so many people saying that they have felt this one so much stronger, so much longer, and that could be because it was only 13 kilometers below the surface there. And we also know that there was a 3.5 yesterday, that foreshock perhaps. We often hear that there was a 5% chance of the actual earthquake being a foreshock, but that could have been the foreshock yesterday. Now we're hearing that there was in fact another aftershock, maybe as big as a 3.9 that happened at 11:23 this morning. Mark's shaking his head to me right now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm monitoring it. All this data coming into the U.S. Geological Survey website, including that aftershock of 3.9 just happened about 6 minutes ago. If you come out to well, first thing I want to do is show you the primary earthquake. Our seismocam caught it. We have some video to show you of when our seismocam caught that earthquake. If we can show it to you right now, you're going to see all of the sensors in our Southern California network here caught this waveform. Anaheim, Long Beach, Los Angeles, San Bernardino, and San Diego. All of them ended up feeling this earthquake, and it's no surprise it was a 5.2 magnitude earthquake down in the Julian area northeast of San Diego. This is about 40 miles in a straight line to the northeast of the city of San Diego. Struck at about 10:08. But there's been a swarm of aftershocks in the area since that quake hit. Let me take you out to my screen and show you what I'm talking about. This is data straight from the U.S. Geological Survey website. And if you can come out to my computer now, yeah, that's it. We're going to zoom in here and show you. Here's the city of San Diego down in this area. I'm going to zoom in. The blue dot I've highlighted, that's the primary quake this morning at 5.2. And you can see all of those other dots around it here. These are all essentially aftershocks. And then this new one here just hit a 3.9 a short time ago. I'm going to send it back to you guys, though, to talk a little bit more about this earthquake.
Yeah, we're actually, Mark, going to get out to Ashley Pinnock. She is in Ramona, which is also East County, San Diego, and not far from the epicenter. Ashley, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Thank you so much for joining us. I know that it's probably been a bit of a morning for you. Can you describe what the quake felt like?
Yeah, I was sitting there and I was watching my son. He was just sitting there playing real quiet, and it felt like my entire roof was going to collapse. We have a large beam that runs through the center of our house, and I started to hear something cracking, and that's when I started screaming at everybody to get out. Because I was terrified. Eventually we figured out that it was just the wall that was cracking and not the beam, thank God. But that's what I thought was going to fall on my head, so I was just like, I have to get out of the house.
And we are, I think, are just looking at some video that you sent in from your home security system showing you with your baby saying, you got to get out, get out, get out. And, you know, I'm a mom, and I think that whenever something like this happens, our first thought is, you know, protect our children. Can you kind of describe what was going through your mind?
Yeah, I didn't want anything to fall on him. I didn't want, the windows to shatter or something crazy. And all I could think was, if I don't get out of here and this does fall on our head, we're done. And that's such a scary feeling.
Thank you for joining us. This is Kalina Estrinos hopping in here. I'm so impressed by this video. You worked so quickly to grab your kiddo and get out of there as safely and quickly as possible. It didn't even look like it started shaking before you immediately had your motherly instincts jump in and get out of there. How are you feeling right now? How's your family feeling right now?
We're all still pretty shook up. I'm still shaky. The adrenaline that runs through your body during these kind of things when, you don't know what's going to happen, it just makes you so nervous. And I still can't kick that feeling. It's like every 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, is it going to happen again? Is it going to happen again?
Yeah, and I just got a message from a friend of mine who lives in Escondido, and she just said, hey, I just felt another one, and I ran outside. Are you inside your home right now, or are you outside?
Yes, we're all inside right now. We did feel that one. I was sitting here waiting on the phone, and we felt it. And my fiance came in, and he has the baby right now. He's being very kind. And so we're all kind of just waiting on edge to see if it's going to happen again. And I think that's really what's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, and you mentioned, did the quake crack your ceiling? Have you looked at the damage?
It did, yes. We actually have, right above our fireplace, it cracked the drywall going up to the ceiling.
And I'm assuming you lived there for a while. Have you ever had any other quakes do that kind of thing, or has this been the worst that you felt?
This has been the worst that I've felt since I've been here. We've been here for about 6 years.
Oh, okay. And are you a native Californian?
Yes, my whole life.
Okay, so you're used to, we're kind of used to this, but whenever you have a quake like this come around, in fact, Paul Diano, our meteorologist, pointed out that this area, this epicenter, has not had a quake above 5.0 since 1910. So especially the people who have lived where you live in Ramona, East County, Julian, those areas for a long time, this definitely, got them going because they haven't had something this severe. Did you feel the one yesterday?
We did, yes, and I didn't think that it was going to be any form of a precursor to what we felt today, and it did definitely make us realize that, since we don't have these large quakes like this very often, that we didn't even really have a plan. It was grab the baby and run outside, and that was it.
And your baby, I know this is probably a really silly question, but when you took your baby out of the crib, how was your baby doing? Did he or she have any reaction? Were you just, holding your baby to make sure they were calm and okay? Or we usually count on children to just think of everything as an adventure. So did anything even register?
Oh, he is so funny. He actually, when we got outside, his head was on my chest because it probably spooked him a little bit, that I picked him up and just started running like a crazy lady. And by the time we got outside, he was all smiles.
Aww.
He just kept showing all his new little teeth and, super happy. And so he had no idea what was going on. He was just like, okay, fun ride, I guess.
Well, and what
fun
really,
little trip outside.
What strikes me about the video, I don't know if you were watching TV, if you're just kind of staring off into space, but you look like kind of so content just sitting there on the couch, like, oh, it's just another Monday at 10 a.m. And you just, right there, you're just up on your feet, you grab that baby, and you go running. And it just goes to show how quickly our lives can change. Thankfully, you're okay, your baby's okay, your home, aside from the crack in it, is okay. Did you get a warning on your cell phone? Are you signed up for those alerts?
I don't think that I did. I know that I think my fiance did. But yeah, it was so fast. I think we heard it a little bit before it got here.
Quick question about the video. I think I saw a cat running across the screen, going to a different room. How's your cat?
Oh my goodness, she's fine. And that's what I had been watching like two minutes before. She was in there playing with the baby, and they're cute. They're little besties. And, she had just gotten out because he was getting a little abusive, and she was like, I'm tired of playing with you. And so she was sitting on the couch, and it scared her.
Aww. Yeah, but no warning. Sometimes they say animals can sense that a quake's coming, but you didn't notice any different behavior in her.
No, not at all. She was maybe. She was with the baby for probably a good 45 minutes playing with him. He was playing with his balls. They were both sitting in there playing with all his toys. And normally she doesn't want to stick around him too often. Because he pulls tails and the whole thing.
Yeah, he's a kid. It's okay. I feel like looking back at this video over and over again, you and the cat had the same instincts to just run the second the camera started shaking, and you guys just like bolted out of there.
Got out of there. Well, the good news is we're hearing now from the mayor of San Diego. The mayor, Todd, Gloria, saying there is no known visible or major damage to the city so far, and I'm in communication with local, state, and federal officials. And of course, the same thing was echoed here in LA, that we had no damage. The fire department kind of gave us the all clear there. But you, of course, have the crack there, so there might be some superficial damage inside homes. We saw a liquor store with bottles on the ground that had fallen off the top shelf. But all in all, I mean, I hate to say that, we got lucky this time, because that implies, there will be a time that we aren't lucky. But, that's what Dr. Lucy Jones and seismologists always tell us, that the big one, it's not a matter of, if, it's a matter of when. And let me ask you, because watching you on that video really jump up, are you going to do anything differently in terms of your plan to be prepared for another earthquake?
I think it's really, for me, is looking around the property and finding where would be the safest place to go, because we don't have as many places to like shelter in. And as I was saying before, we have a huge beam that runs through the center of our house that makes me nervous, because if that were to fall down, that's a life or death situation. So, it's really just finding outside where's the safest place to go, not around trees, making sure that all the kids are out of the house. How fast can you do that? And that's, when something like that is happening, especially if, my other children were in school, they wouldn't have been in school. I don't know how fast I would have been able to grab all of them at the same time.
Yeah, that's true.
Very good point.
Well, Ashley Pinnock, we're so thankful that you were able to hop on a call with us and talk with us. We're glad you're okay. Great instincts, and we really appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too. We want to get to CAL FIRE Captain Mike Cornett joining us right now. Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Thank you so much for joining us. We've been covering this earthquake throughout the morning, the second after we heard it hit around 10:08 this morning. We do know that fire department tends to go in earthquake mode when it comes to when an earthquake hits. Can you tell us a little bit about what you guys have gone through so far? Anything that you might be hearing for our area or elsewhere from your colleagues?
Yeah, we're in constant communication through our dispatch center with all the other dispatch center region-wide. We do have implemented our earthquake plan, so all of our fire engines and apparatus are outside the building. The crews are going around right now to see if there's any hazards, any damage to any buildings, or anything that needs to be mitigated by the fire department. So we are active right now in the community. We have received several aftershocks, so our firefighters are on a heightened sense of awareness right now.
But so far, have you heard of any damage at all? Or are you hearing of any of that? Or you guys are still looking into everything?
No, I'm up in the Julian area right now. I happened to be up in the area when the earthquake struck. So we have had our crews go out and check all the different areas, and so far we haven't found anything, thankfully.
Wow. So what was it like for you since you were there? You were in the location where it hit in Julian. Can you walk us through what it felt like for you?
Yeah, I've been in San Diego County all my life, so I've lived through quite a few earthquakes, and I could say that this is probably one of the strongest earthquakes I've felt in a very long time. I was in a building in a school. We were doing a presentation in there. We all knew to get down, kind of duck underneath the tables, and once that hazard passed, we exited and made sure that everybody was accounted for and safe, and then they could move forward with making sure that the buildings and everything else was good to go.
And let me ask you, I always know that this is a good time when people are listening and they're rattled to talk to them about earthquake preparedness. And I know that so many of us are woefully unprepared, even though we know the risk is there. Can you take this time to let our viewers know what they should have on hand to be ready for when that big one strikes?
Yeah, I would say it's like any type of natural disaster. We want to make sure that we have 72 hours of of supplies ready. So we want to have that go bag ready, that we can take it with us if we need to evacuate. A big thing for earthquakes, especially in the middle of the night or if you're in your bed, is to keep some slippers or sandals next to your bed, because you never know if that earthquake's going to break the glass in your window, and then you have to walk through that glass. So you want to make sure that you have something to cover your feet. You also want to make sure that you have flashlights and gloves, and anything that you would need to keep you safe through that event in up to 72 hours.
You know, you mentioned that you were at a school giving a presentation. You had kids in the classroom too, right?
Luckily, the kids weren't there. We were talking to the staff about some different safety topics, and this just happened to happen. But the staff acted very quickly, and it was great to see that some of our educators, even though they're not emergency responders, were able to identify that hazard, take command of the situation, and make sure that we had accountability of everybody.
And, you know, I think it's important to point out, too, because a lot of people may not realize this. If there were a really big quake with lots of damage, lots of injuries and deaths, you guys would not be able, you know, it's not like someone can just pick up the phone and call 911 and say, hey, you know, I cut my foot on glass, I need some help. Yeah. People are going to have to essentially be self-sufficient for a little while.
Yeah, and it's going to take some time for the first responders and the firefighters to make sure that they're safe too, to be able to do their job, and then not only do their job, but then get to your residence or wherever you're at. So there might be hazards in the road. There might be other 911 calls that happen at the same time. So preparedness and having those evacuation supplies, those first aid supplies, and being ready to be self-sufficient potentially for a couple hours after.
How long do you guys stay on scene after an earthquake of this magnitude happens?
Well, we keep our fire trucks out until we get an all clear from our dispatch. We go out to our communities and do what we call a windshield survey. So we're making sure that we're looking at all the businesses and the buildings, going through the residential areas, seeing if there's any damage to the structures, seeing if there's any hazards like trees in the road or power wires down or anything like that. I know that the engine up here in Julian, I saw them over at the school, so they were making sure that the kids were safe, and then they went through the town to make sure that our residents were safe as well.
And can you speak to the fact, you know, because I think so many of us, we hear, you know, 5.2, which is a considerable quake, but, you know, we don't see a lot of damage. Do you think that really speaks to, you know, how our buildings are built?
Yeah, and I know that the building codes have adapted to new earthquake regulations, and as time and technology progress, we continue to progress our building codes, and so I do believe that's one of the factors that we haven't seen any damage. I know Julian is a very old mining town here, so it has survived many earthquakes through its time, but thankfully there is no damage in Julian as of right now.
Well, that's always good to know. I do. Speaking on that, I do feel like there's a huge difference from when I was a kid, feeling the earthquakes and the big ones that I remember, versus now, where we do have so many different things that have been put into place when it comes to our buildings and how they can, you know, react and absorb the actual earthquake. So
yeah.
Yeah, we've come a long way, and we appreciate you joining us. I know that when this sort of thing happens, the fire department, CAL FIRE, all the different agencies are so busy. So we appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us, and we're glad that it sounds like everything is okay. We did speak with a woman who said that it caused a crack in her ceiling, so we might see kind of, you know, superficial damage like that, but it sounds like no reports of major damage, major injuries, and for that we are very grateful.
No, we are too here at CAL FIRE and in San Diego County Fire, and we're going to continue to serve the community and make sure that we mitigate any hazards and protect the lives.
All right. Well, CAL FIRE Captain Mike Cornett, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's get over to Paul Diano now for a look at what you've been tracking for this earthquake. You kind of walked us through some of the aftershocks we've been feeling, and what people, you know, need to know about this particular earthquake.
Yeah, we'll kind of set the stage geographically first, then we'll get to some of the information, including talking about the Elsinore Fault, which is a fault we don't talk about much. We are today. This is a list of the earthquakes that have happened over the past week, magnitude 2 or larger. You can clearly see a concentration in and around eastern and inland San Diego County. We'll get a little bit closer. The red dots, earthquakes that have happened over the past 1 hour. So from 10:46 to right now, there are 2 aftershocks that have happened over the past hour. A lot of yellow dots and a few big yellow dots. The bigger the dot, the bigger the earthquake. We had that magnitude 5.2 quake at 10:08. Guys, it sounds like I'm going back to you.
Okay,
All right,
Paul.
Thank you. I do believe we might have Linda Rangel on the phone right now. Linda, can you hear us?
Yes.
Hi,
Yes, hi.
it's Kalina and Christine. I know Amy had mentioned earlier that she reached out to a friend of hers. This is my friend Linda.
Oh, this is your friend Linda.
This is my friend Linda. She went to San Diego State. She lives in Escondido right now. And I had messaged you after I heard of the earthquake because I know you're not too far away from Julian, Ramona. You're familiar with the area. So can you just walk us through what you felt when it started shaking?
Yeah, so I live in the unincorporated rural area of Escondido. So we have a ranch house and then a second ADU structure that has a loft where I have an office that I work in. So I was just working, and I think people said that an alert went out, but I don't think there was enough time for me to actually get an alert. I was just working, and all of a sudden everything kind of started shaking. And because it's a pretty sizable structure, it was making a lot of noises and creaking. And my instinct was to just leave the building. I don't know if that was the right thing to do, but I didn't have any shoes on. I left my phone behind. I just got up and ran out. And since we live in kind of a country area, we have a pretty sizable clearing that I kind of ran out to because I wasn't sure how long it was going to last. But it has been a long time since I've felt an earthquake, so it definitely spooked me enough to get out.
And we were talking earlier about being California native. She's from California as well. So I know, Linda, you're used to it. I know you have kids too. Were they with you? Were they in school? What can you tell us about what the school decided to do if they were in school? I know your husband's a teacher too.
Yes.
Can you give us any insight on that?
So my husband's on staff at Mission Hills High School in San Marcos, and my kids are at a local daycare and at a local elementary school. So immediately once I felt safe enough to go back in and get my phone, I called my husband, and he was still under his desk. They were still being advised to stay under their desks. And then while I was speaking with him, the PA system, they were alerted to evacuate. So I know they evacuated for a little while. I called my children's school, and the kids were spooked, but thankfully at the daycare, they checked the structure and everything seemed okay. So the kids went back in, and then I think with the elementary school as well, they let us know that they checked and everything was okay and that they were going to go ahead and let the kids resume classes. But I imagine for my kids, they've never experienced that. So I'm sure they were scared.
Yeah, and I mean, I think kids these days, like me growing up in San Diego, we had two kind of drills, right? We had like a fire drill, we had an earthquake drill. Now the kids also have like, school shooting drills and all these other different drills and, evacuation drills. And I think sometimes we forget that we do live in earthquake country. We become kind of like immune to it. And now we're looking at some security video of different people's homes. And you can really see, my mom and dad live in Del Mar still. And my dad was home and he said that it's one of the worst he's felt. And they've lived in San Diego since the early 60s, mid 60s. And when you look at this footage, we can see what he was describing to me was it was more of a shaking. A lot of times we feel like a rolling motion or a quick jolt. I imagine the reason why you went all the way outside is because it was a shaking that just wasn't really ending.
Yeah, exactly. And I have a sister-in-law and brother-in-law that live in a condo in downtown San Diego, and they're on the 5th floor. And for them, it was more of a rolling. Their whole building was kind of slowly rolling, but I know they felt it all the way down there. So
yeah, they felt it
the shaking,
all the way up.
I've been in San Diego for a while, and I haven't had experienced an earthquake like this level in a long time. And then I felt a little bit of an aftershock quite a bit after I decided to go back into my main house to get some coffee, and felt the aftershock, and the roof kind of started making a weird creaking sound. So again, I ran outside again because it scared me again. I was like, I'm not taking my chances.
It's probably a good thing. I know you mentioned the creaky sound, and you live kind of in, in a ranch area. There's a lot of land right around you. Did you kind of walk around the house to see if there was any damage, or just kind of spooked about what happened?
Yeah, no, I walked around to make sure I didn't see any cracks and that everything looked okay. And we live near kind of a hillside that has a lot of boulders, and it's a easement area to preserve the naturalness of the area. So I just kind of looked around to make sure I didn't see any sort of boulders dislodge or anything that could be problematic, because if they roll down, our house is sort of on the bottom. So yeah, I just surveyed our pool, make sure I didn't see any cracks in the pool. But yeah, those were some of my main concerns.
Well, we're so glad you're okay, and thank you so much for joining us and letting us talk to you about everything. Glad your kiddos are okay, your husband's okay, and stay safe.
Thank you. Thanks so much, ladies. Take care.
Well, we continue with the breaking news right now. A 5.2 earthquake near Julian in San Diego County rocked parts of Southern California this morning.
With shaking also being felt in the Inland Empire, Los Angeles County, Orange County, and there have been at least 7 aftershocks.
I want you to take a look at this video here showing the shaking inside of a home. This video was posted on social media. We've been seeing different videos being posted showing the shaking, showing some items that have, dropped, and people's reactions like this one.
This poor
when
mom.
That shaking, I know. She did a great job, though,
She did.
making sure her kid was okay.
Yeah, she just went right for that baby, and then you see the cat go after her, and then her husband follows suit. We want to get out to assignment desk manager Mark Liu. He has more, including what Dr. Lucy Jones had to say this morning about the quake. Mark?
Yeah, so Christine, Kalina, lots of data coming in from the U.S. Geological Survey about this quake. The primary one, 5.2, happened about 10:08. This morning, there's been a swarm of aftershocks, including a 3.9 that happened just about 30 minutes ago. Let me give you an overview of where this is all happening. Come out to my screen. I'm going to show you data straight from the U.S. Geological Survey website. Okay, so the city of San Diego, down here, this is our major landmark, and about 40 miles to the northeast, this is the earthquake swarm that we're talking about here. The primary earthquake was the one that I highlighted in blue here. That's right in the community of Julian, a 5.2 at about 10:08. All of these orange ones around that you see to the north, that's an aftershock swarm that has been about the last 2 hours, most of them in the high twos. And then this one right here was a 3.9 just about 30 minutes ago, about 23 minutes past the hour. This one down here to the south of the primary quake, that was yesterday, 3.3, so very likely a foreshock. Now, looking at this bit of data here, this is very interesting. It shows just how far and wide the earthquake was felt. All of these little boxes, they look like grains of sand across Southern California, are all instances of people reporting feeling this earthquake. Now, the blue boxes all through Southern California here, this is all considered light to very light shaking. Now, as we go down into the San Diego area, we're going to see something we haven't seen in a while. We've seen some yellow and greens here, which is moderate to strong shaking. And then right at the epicenter, there's actually some orange boxes which report people feeling very strong or severe shaking. Now, whenever there's an earthquake, I go to this page, and also Paul Diano over in the Weather Center, we immediately start putting our heads together because he has great access to data over on his computers in the Weather Center. And he noticed something before I did, that there are actually some reports of people feeling it in Phoenix. There are a couple of reports here, 4 right there. The people said that they felt it in the Phoenix area. And then if we zoom out even further and go up into Las Vegas, Nevada has 4 reports as well of people who said they felt this quake. And then over to the west, we see as far west as Santa Barbara and Lompoc. There's a very light shaking report right there in Lompoc, which is quite distant from the epicenter. Now, this swarm of aftershocks and the primary quake was discussed on a Zoom meeting with seismologist Lucy Jones. Take a listen to what she had to say about this one.
Every earthquake could be a foreshock to something bigger. We haven't found any characteristic that says this is or will or won't be a foreshock. Essentially, a foreshock is a main shock that happened to have a really big aftershock. There was a foreshock to this earthquake. There was a 3.5 yesterday afternoon. The chance that this 5.2 would itself be a foreshock to something bigger is still the same. It's about 5% chance. So it means, 19 out of 20 times what you're seeing is the biggest one. 1 out of 20 times it's followed by something bigger.
Now, Governor Gavin Newsom says he has been briefed on this incident. The California Governor's Office of Emergency Services is working with local agencies to assist with any possible damage, but we don't know of any damage beyond things being knocked off the shelves. We saw that video in Julian of the liquor store with the bottles knocked over, and of course that woman who rushed out of her living room during that quake. We don't know of any reports of any injuries. That's really the best news to hear about this, but I will say that one thing that is important for people transiting through Orange County into San Diego on the Metrolink lines, Orange County line train 608 from San Clemente to Oceanside is currently suspended because they want to check those tracks. If you remember, Kalina and Christine, those are the tracks that run right by the beach, and previously in 2022, there was some landslides and rock slides there that closed the tracks. So they're going to walk those tracks to make sure that there is not any sand or rocks that could impede a Metrolink train going through there. But thankfully, no reports of any severe damage either in Julian at the epicenter or really anywhere else out throughout Southern California.
You know, and I remember working down there in San Diego, and that's one of the spots that if anything happened weather-wise, we were always sent to those train tracks because of the landslides, because of the rain, because of the damage that could happen. So it's no surprise that they have to go ahead and inspect that particular area.
And they have put some mesh up there now that's really kind of controlled the landslide that's coming down, because, you know, if you live, I'm from that area, I'm from the coast, and, you know, those hillsides are not, you know, they're eroding, they're moving a lot. It's kind of like tough sand more than it is like an actual hill. But the video you're seeing there is the a liquor store where some bottles came off the shelves, but we'll see a mom pick up her baby and run out of there. She did say there was a crack in her ceiling. So while we haven't had any major damage, any major injuries, we could see people having some impacts to their homes. In fact, years ago, the Northridge quake, of all quakes, actually cracked my parents' pool all the way down in San Diego. So you never quite know how it's going to impact the homes and the buildings there. But thankfully, it looks like everyone is okay.
Yeah. And, you know, we've been talking about Julian just as, you know, a location itself. It's a small community. We've been saying that all morning. It has a population of about 1,700 people. It's a mountain town. You know, people are known. I remember when I was working down there, I just go up there to, you know, get the fresh air, look at the scenery, travel along Main Street, you know, eat the apple pie like Christine and Amy were talking about earlier. So it's a very quiet town. This is probably the most action they've gotten in a very long time because not a lot happens in that area in particular. So again, we're going to keep you updated throughout the morning when it comes to this earthquake. We have Amy Johnson now getting situated to take over. But this, again, is rocking the San Diego County area. You know, more than 38,000 people reporting that they felt this earthquake when it hit just after 10:08 this morning. It was downgraded to a 5.2 earthquake. So many people are so familiar with San Diego in general and just so familiar with this particular area too. So we'll continue our coverage right now with Amy Johnson.
This is KCAL News, Los Angeles.
Now at noon, we continue to follow breaking news. A 5.2 earthquake near San Diego this morning was shaking felt across Southern California. Hello and welcome to KCAL News at noon and streaming on CBS News Los Angeles. I'm Amy Johnson. We do want to begin with the breaking news. That 5.2 earthquake near Julian in San Diego County rocked parts of Southern California this morning just after 10 o'clock, about 10:08. With shaking being felt in the Inland Empire, Los Angeles County, and Orange County. There have been at least 7 aftershocks. Assignment Desk Manager Mark Liu has more, including what Dr. Lucy Jones had to say this morning. Mark?
Yeah, that's right, Amy. We've been covering this earthquake all morning here at the desk, gathering a ton of data from the U.S. Geological Survey website. This was a 5.2 magnitude earthquake, initially reported as a 6.0, but then downgraded after being reviewed by a seismologist. Happened at about 10:08 this morning in the community of Julian. That's about 40 miles to the northeast of San Diego. No reports of any major damage yet or injuries, but thousands of people felt it, and we certainly saw it on our KCAL Seismocam. Let me show you that right now. This is video of that waveform. You can see there all 5 sensors, Anaheim, Long Beach, Los Angeles, San Bernardino, and San Diego felt this magnitude 5.2 quake just after 10 this morning. and it really registered all across Southern California. In just a second, I'm going to show you just how far and wide this quake was felt, even into other states and into Mexico as well. Now, if you come out to my screen, I'm going to give you a better idea of where this was located. This is the U.S. Geological Survey website, and I'm going to zoom in on this cluster here. But first, let me first identify what we're looking at here. This is the city of San Diego, and it's 40 miles to the north here in the community of Julian right here. If we zoom in, this dot right here, that was the main quake, 5.2, as I said, just after 10. These orange dots all around here in this area, these are aftershocks, including one just about 45 minutes ago, a 3.9. That's the largest aftershock we have seen so far. Then there was this one. This was actually yesterday, a 3.3, possibly a foreshock. Now, really, just to give you an idea of just how far and wide this was felt, take a look at the Did You Feel It Shake map. All of these tiny, tiny little squares, these are all examples of people who self-reported to the U.S. Geological Survey that they felt it all across Southern California. Blue indicates light shaking. Green, you start to get a little bit heavier as we go through Riverside County down here. And as I move into the San Diego area, yellow is strong shaking. So we can see just to the west of the epicenter and down here in San Diego, there's some reports of strong shaking. And then, of course, right here in the center of your screen, if I zoom in, you're going to see there are some people that reported very strong shaking, severe shaking right here in an area called Harrison Park. Now, Paul Diano over in the Weather Center, whenever there's an earthquake, we put our heads together, start gathering data. He noticed that there were people in the Phoenix region who said they felt the earthquake here, here, and here. And then to the north as well, in the Las Vegas, Nevada area, we've got reports up there. At least 4 people wrote into the U.S. Geological Survey that they felt it in the Las Vegas area. And then all the way to the west, if I zoom out and go over here into Lompoc, there's actually one person right there in the Mission Hills area of Lompoc that felt it as well. So tens of thousands of people, certainly through Southern California, reported that they had felt this. Now, seismologist Lucy Jones talked about this earthquake and the foreshocks and the aftershocks on a Zoom meeting a short time ago. Let me play you some of what she had to say.
Every earthquake could be a foreshock to something bigger. We haven't found any characteristic that says this is or will or won't be a foreshock. Essentially, a foreshock is a main shock that happened to have a really big aftershock. There was a foreshock to this earthquake. There was a 3.5 yesterday afternoon. The chance that this 5.2 would itself be a foreshock to something bigger is still the same. It's about 5% chance. So it means, 19 out of 20 times what you're seeing is the biggest one. 1 out of 20 times it's followed by something bigger.
Yeah, let's hope this is the 19 out of 20 times. This was the biggest one that we're going to have today. Now, this is video from a liquor store called Mountain Spirit Liquor in Julian. You can see this is an example. I'm sure it happened all over that community of things being knocked off shelves. In this case, it was bottles of liquor all over the floor. So there's going to be some cleanup here. But again, no injuries reported in Julian. We are hearing from other people that lived in the area as well. They have some cracks in their walls and ceilings. Certainly, this is a common thing for homes in Southern California. I doubt there's virtually a home anywhere in Southern California that doesn't have some kind of cracks or small cracks in their foundations from earthquakes like this. But LA County Fire, LA City Fire, and San Diego County Fire so far reporting no reports of any injuries, which is great. Amy, the governor, has been briefed on this earthquake. He has activated the governor's Office of Emergency Services to work with any local authorities that need any help. And one note that I want to say, Orange County Train Line 608, which is that train line that runs between San Clemente and Orange County right along the beach. Right now, that train track is closed because that is right there on the shore, and at times there has been problems with either sand or rocks during earthquakes getting on those train tracks, so they've suspended service to walk those train tracks to make sure there's nothing on the tracks from this earthquake. I'll keep monitoring this and let you know if anything changes here, but thankfully this may just be an earthquake that we all felt, didn't really experience any damage or injuries, which is good news here in Southern California. I'll send it back to you, Amy.
That is the best news, Mark. Thanks so much. About 30 minutes ago, we spoke to Ashley Pinnock, a mom who lives in Ramona in the San Diego County Estates, right near the epicenter, about the fear and her first reaction, which was also caught on her home security camera. Let's listen in.
Yeah, I was sitting there and I was watching my son. He was just sitting there playing real quiet, and it felt like my entire roof was going to collapse. We have a large beam that runs through the center of our house. and I started to hear something crashing, and that's when I started screaming at everybody to get out. Because I was terrified. Eventually, we figured out that it was just the wall that was cracking and not the beam. Thank God. But that's what I thought was going to fall on my head. So I was just like, I have to get out of the house.
And we are, I think, are just looking at some video that you sent in from your home security system showing you with your baby saying, you got to get out, get out, get out. And, you know, I'm a mom, and I think that whenever something like this happens, our first thought is, you know, protect our children. Can you kind of describe what was going through your mind?
Yeah, I didn't want anything to fall on him. I didn't want, you know, the windows to shatter or something crazy. And all I could think was, if I don't get out of here and this does fall on our head, we're done. And that's such a scary feeling.
All right, we want to get some more on the science behind the quake with meteorologist Paul Diano. Paul?
Yeah, this is an area that doesn't typically see bigger earthquakes like this. This happened along the Elsinore Fault, which runs through Lake Elsinore, hence the name. Runs from El Centro all the way north to Chino Hills into our viewing area. It actually runs and parallels the Santa Ana Mountains in eastern Orange County. The last big earthquake along this specific fault was a magnitude 6 115 years ago. So a magnitude 5.2 happened on that fault today. Now, how often does this happen? Let's look at the entire state of California. We get a magnitude 5 or stronger in California 2 or 3 times a year. It averages about 2.5 occurrences per year. We just had one of them this morning in San Diego County. Now, the big ones, the damaging ones, magnitude 6.5 or stronger, that only happens 1 time on average every 4 years. Thankfully, that did not happen this time. That said, this is the strongest earthquake in the state of California since August 9th of last year, which was also a 5.2 magnitude along the Grapevine in southern Kern County. We've already seen 8 aftershocks of 2.5 or higher, the ones that you would actually feel in that area. And as with most earthquakes, as Dr. Jones had stated, there's always the chance it is a foreshock. The highest chance is right after the earthquake. It's about 5%. We are already down to, statistically speaking, a 1% chance of that happening, which is good news. Typically, if that were to happen, it would happen within minutes after the quake, and we've now coming up on about almost exactly 2 hours since this earthquake happened. Take a look at our forecast. Things are certainly changing. We'll have that, Amy, coming up in about 10 minutes. Back to you.
All right, Paul, thanks so much. Well, we are following some breaking news out of Minnesota. A person has been arrested near United Healthcare's headquarters after reports of an intruder. Now, police say the suspect is in custody and there is no threat. Today's incident comes months after a gunman killed the CEO of United.
Breaking news tonight, the new arrest after someone set fire to the home of the Pennsylvania governor. He and his family asleep inside. New developments late tonight about what police call an act of arson and potential attempted murder. Windows shattered, smoke billowing out. Governor Josh Shapiro and his family woken up to banging on the door from rescuers. And tonight, the governor emotional and forceful in his message.
This type of violence is not okay.
What else we're learning about how this could have happened? White House whiplash and mixed messages over those new tariff exemptions on some products. Why officials say they may not be permanent and what it means for the price you pay. A new development in the case of the teen charged with killing his parents, now allegedly tied to a plot to assassinate President Trump. An American pastor kidnapped in South Africa in the middle of a sermon. The latest on the search and what his church is saying at Sunday services. Spring break travel in full swing with some alarm bells for airlines. Why the Frontier CEO tells us he's still hopeful about the future. You may be the only airline CEO right now who is optimistic.
This is NBC Nightly News with Hallie Jackson.
Good evening. We are coming on the air with breaking news out of Pennsylvania, where late tonight police say someone's in custody after suspected arson at the governor's mansion, with Governor Josh Shapiro and his family asleep inside. You can see what looks like smoke coming out of one of the windows of the residence here, and the massive emergency response. Rescuers banging on the door around 2 in the morning. As late tonight, the governor himself, considered a rising star in the Democratic Party, delivering an emotional message, calling this an attack not just on his family, but on all of Pennsylvania. Our Maya Eaglin is on the ground and starts us off.
38-year-old Cody Bomber now in custody and expected to be charged with attempted murder, terrorism, aggravated arson, and more, after officials say he forcibly entered and set a fire at Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's residence in Harrisburg.
He was able to, he acted very surreptitiously, and then he forcibly entered, and then he set the fire.
Authorities calling the blaze an act of arson, saying local fire officials responded to the incident around 2 a.m., successfully evacuating Governor Josh Shapiro and his family while extinguishing the flames. The governor and his family were in a different part of the home, officials say, away from the fire, but a portion of the house had a significant amount of damage from the blaze.
This type of violence is not okay. This kind of violence is becoming far too common in our society.
Officials haven't said if they believe the incident was politically motivated or a hate crime. Police say Bomber had a homemade device.
He had some homemade incendiary devices.
Just hours before the incident, Shapiro, who was Jewish, sent out this message for Passover with a picture of his family's Seder table.
If he was trying to terrorize our family, our friends, the Jewish community who joined us for a Passover Seder in that room last night, hear me on this. We celebrated our faith last night proudly, and in a few hours we will celebrate our second Seder of Passover again proudly.
Maya Eaglin joins us now from Harrisburg, where one of the big questions, Maya, is how somebody got so close to the governor's residence in the first place.
Yeah, Hallie, police say once a suspect hopped over the fence right over here by the governor's mansion, the security team was alerted, but somehow that suspect was able to make it inside the residence. So now security teams here are doing a full review to try and make sure something like this doesn't happen again. Hallie?
Maya Eaglin in Harrisburg for us tonight. Thank you. To the economy now. Wall Street bracing for more uncertainty with mixed messages from the Trump administration over exemptions from punishing tariffs. The White House whiplash setting up what could be another chaotic week. Yamiche Alcindor reports.
Tonight, the Trump administration suggesting the president's new tariff exemptions on a number of electronics may be short-lived.
They're exempt from the reciprocal tariffs, but they're included in the semiconductor tariffs, which are coming in probably a month or two. So this is not like a permanent sort of exemption.
That comes after President Trump yesterday exempted a number of smartphones, computers, semiconductors, and other tech devices from the 125% tariff on Chinese imports and the 10% baseline tariff on other countries, leaving in place an existing 20% fentanyl-related tariff on China. And amid an escalating trade war with China, a top aide said this when asked whether there are plans for the two countries' presidents to speak.
Right now, we don't have any plans on that. This issue is truly at the leaders' level.
Late Friday, the president signed an executive order titled Clarification of Exceptions. But today he posted saying there was no tariff exception announced on Friday. Meanwhile, the Dow, S&P 500, and NASDAQ are down since President Trump's inauguration in January. 61-year-old dog trainer and high school teacher Ganetta Savoy was hoping to retire before 68. But now,
if this current trend continues, we won't be able to retire until at least 70, maybe not at all.
At the Villages in Florida, the financial fears top of mind for Paulo Orlando's pickleball group.
There's just so much uncertainty with what people should individually do.
At this point, it's a matter of just seeing the value go down.
Yamiche Alcindor is traveling with the president in Florida. And Yamiche, the White House is also now releasing President Trump's physical results today.
That's right. The White House physician says President Trump is in, quote, excellent health with no abnormalities in his mental status. The doctor also noted that the president has a scar on his right ear from an assassination attempt last summer. Hallie?
Yamiche, thank you. Also tonight, major new developments in the case of a teen charged with killing his parents, now also accused of plotting to assassinate President Trump. Maggie Vespa's in Wisconsin with that story.
Tonight, 17-year-old Nikita Kassip, already charged with the chilling double murder of his Wisconsin parents, now in the FBI's crosshairs for investigators believe plotting to kill President Donald Trump, according to newly unsealed federal court documents. The news stunning the small city of Waukesha.
What's it like to hear that about your neighbor?
It's terrible. I was just so torn by it.
This FBI affidavit saying authorities found in the teen's phone a manifesto calling for the assassination of the President of the United States in order to foment a political revolution and promote white supremacy, along with materials linking him to a neo-Nazi extremist group. Investigators writing Kassip in messages with someone said he planned to use a drone in the attack that would drop a bomb with nuts, bolts, needles, and then flee to Ukraine. The affidavit stating Kassip had paid for, at least in part, a drone and explosives and was communicating with someone with a Ukrainian number. It did not say where or when he allegedly planned to target the president. This after, back in late February, local authorities during a welfare check found the teen's parents shot to death in the family home. The affidavit saying the couple had been dead for roughly 2 weeks and Kassip living in the home with their bodies, then fleeing before he was arrested in Kansas. Investigators writing the killing of his parents appeared to be an effort to obtain the financial means and autonomy necessary to carry out his plan.
Maggie Vespa joins us now outside the Waukesha jail where this teen's being held. And Maggie, the White House is not commenting tonight?
Yeah, Hallie, that's right. We reached out to the White House for comment. We have yet to hear back. This, of course, after multiple attempts on the president's life last year. Kassip's attorney, for what it's worth, also not responding to our request for comment. He, the teenager in this case, has yet to enter a plea in the murder case tied to those state charges. At the same time, this affidavit indicating multiple federal charges could be coming tied to this now foiled assassination plot. Hallie.
Maggie Vespa watching all of it for us tonight. Thanks. At a Tennessee church, calls for prayers this morning with an urgent search happening now for an American pastor reportedly kidnapped at gunpoint in South Africa during a sermon. George Solis has the latest.
Hello, church. This is your missionary, Josh Sullivan, here.
Tonight, an urgent search to find Josh Sullivan, a Tennessee pastor authorities say was kidnapped by armed men in South Africa while preaching. Law enforcement there telling NBC affiliate WBIR Sullivan is being held for ransom and telling NBC News the investigation is at a very sensitive stage.
The suspect allegedly forced the victim into his own vehicle and fled the scene with him.
According to his blog, Sullivan moved to South Africa in 2018 to start a branch of Fellowship Baptist Church.
You can see the sign here of our church.
Sullivan touring the church in this YouTube video posted this past February.
My heart dropped. There's no doubt about that.
Pastor Tom Hatley has